Whoops. Welcome to Progressive Soup. My name is David Stevenson. Tonight, Gene Hislop, my co-host, and I have a very special guest, Gerry Garcia. Not the Gerry Garcia that you might think. This Gerry Garcia is not running for rebirth or reliving or reanimation. He's running for the Secretary of State of Connecticut's office as I try to... Okay, Gerry, you've been on the show before. Tell our audience who you are, where you come from, what brought you to where you are now, and most importantly, what about the office that you're running for, Secretary of State. But first, who are you? Where did you come from?
Well, hi Dave, hi Gene. It's really great to join you guys here this evening, and thank you for having me back.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Of course, wouldn't miss it. You know, I'm a New Havener and raised in New Haven. I was a graduate of Wilbercross High School. I stuck around New Haven after I graduated. I went to Yale and then worked for the Anti-Defamation League and on diversity education programs. Yeah, it was an awesome experience. And then went over and worked in banking, ran for office. I served 3 terms on was elected 3 times to the City Council in New Haven. And you know, a lot of people joke about my name. You've even got a tie-dye here this evening. I wore this tie for you guys. I'll tell you, it's the inaugural. You see it. It is
some tie.
That's a Gerry Garcia tie.
But
Gerry with a J.
It is Gerry with a J.
Yay.
But, you know, and I know you were wondering. No, I wasn't conceived at Woodstock. But when you're running for office, it's
you're about the right age. You're not too far from that.
Just about the right age. It could have worked out, and you know, you got the gathering of the vibes going on now, so that's also kind of exciting. I'm going to have to try and stop by there.
Yeah, be careful. You might be mobbed.
I hope so. Hey, but you know, it's a great name to have when you're running for office. It sure beats being named Charles Manson. That's for sure.
That is absolutely certain.
Charles Manson's coming on next. Oh my God, you've blown the cover for that one.
So what are you going to put in the middle of the table?
A bloodied shirt. It won't be tie-dyed, let's put it that way. It might be a very deep, dark sepia tone.
Oh dear.
But I'll tell you, I'm a candidate for Secretary of the State. I'm running in the primary this August 10th, and one of 2 candidates. And you know, your viewers may or may not know. You know, people know what the governor does, and they know what the treasurer does, but a lot of times they don't know what is this Secretary of the State. By the way, it's Hillary Clinton is Secretary of
State. Correct.
Yes. And then there's this office that in Connecticut is called Secretary of the State, and Susan Bisowitz is currently the Secretary of the State. And what's interesting is that the office does not have a uniform name across the country. Some states have a Secretary of the State, some have Secretary of State, and some don't have it at all. And then within, so the names change, and within the service that they provide, sometimes the duties are combined like they are in Connecticut, or split apart. So what am I talking about, combined or split apart?
Yeah.
Identity is what this office is about. And that's kind of interesting. What does that mean?
Yeah,
Identity.
what does that mean?
The office of it's the office of identity. Why? Because the office deals with 2 different kinds of identity. One of them is our identity expressed politically in its basic form. We call that a vote. Right?
Okay.
So it's the office responsible for voting, who can vote, who's registered to vote, what's the process around voting. The other part of the identity is economic identity. What are the names and what are the organizations that are authorized to do business in the state of Connecticut? It's the keeper of the business registry. And so it's very much the office of identity, and identity is very much a part of who I am. You know, we talk about this Gerry Garcia and ha ha ha, but my name, I have 2 family names. My father's side of the family is from Vega Baja, Puerto Rico. My father was born and raised there and came stateside as a teenager. He moved to New Haven, and he met my mom there, and they fell in love. My mom was of Austrian and Romanian and Jewish descent, and they fell in love and got married. And so in the Ashkenazi Jewish tradition, I was named Gerald, and in the a lot of traditions, Garcia is my father's last name, and so Gerald and Garcia together give you, Gerry Garcia.
Garcia.
And so, the ties are fun, and the ice cream is fun. but my identity is framed by my name, as a lot of identities are. And so for me, it feels almost natural to be running for the office of identity in the state of Connecticut.
And know what it's like to be Irish and have a very proud heritage, a very proud identity. I know people that are Italian Americans that have that great sense of identity. And identity is a lot of what makes us who we are, and how we identify ourselves culturally as our culture that we came from, and then blend that with the identity of being American. It's what makes America a great country.
I would also say that not only is it perfect that you're running for the office of identity, but also your diversity training and background certainly helps form that identity as well, with matching in with your own heritage and background, very diverse, and living in such a diverse city like New Haven, growing up and serving in politics. So
it gets even more diverse and more intensely diverse than that. I mean, my wife, we mentioned Susan Beiswitz before. Susan's not my wife. But no, when I was married last year, and
congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Oh, as opposed to you're not married now, it's when you became married.
I became married
to Magda.
I became married to Magda last year. And speaking of wind beneath my wings, she's really amazing. And I'm very, very, very fortunate. And Magda's originally from Krakow, Poland. And so it was kind of fun because we had this wedding that was very different. And it was Puerto Rican and Jewish and Polish and Catholic, and we had Asian American sisters who were our caterers, and it was really nuts. And we crafted our own wedding because, well, in Poland, as some of your viewers I know, you measure a wedding in time by the calendar, not the clock. So Polish weddings are measured in days.
Wow.
And we had looked at a number of places, and we had, it was like, oh, you can do whatever you want, so long as you're in and out of here in 4 hours. And by the way, you can have whatever food you like, so long as it's our caterer. And that just wasn't working for us in the diversity that is who we are. And so we crafted our own wedding on the beach in Madison, Connecticut, and it was really lovely. Magda's mom, 77 years old, flew for the first time in her whole life.
Wow.
Flew from Krakow to the United States to attend her granddaughter's wedding. And, we couldn't have a wedding that was shorter than the flight from Poland to the States.
Sure.
And so, but, I mean, the diversity of who my wife and I are is just a fun piece of, we didn't plan it this way. And then, I'm sure many of your viewers know there's this kind of other secret weapon, not so secret weapon that's part of this campaign. He's a state rep from part of Danbury and Bethel and part of Reading. You might have heard of him. His name is Jason Bartlett. And
good friend of the show.
He's terrific. He's terrific.
He is a terrific guy.
And so Jason,
I don't always agree with him, but I'll tell you what, that's part of. He's very quick to be and very honest with his opinions, and he's straightforward and just a very class human being.
He is.
No, it's been great to work with him, and we've been working really hard. From the very beginning. I mean, Jason, if in case any of your viewers don't know, is African American. He's gay and he's out, and he's the highest ranked legislator of who's African American in the country to be out. And it's just ranked in Connecticut last year by the NAACP as one of the top 100 African American leaders. And we just really have this amazing team. My treasurer is Ronnie Petronella, who's one of the statewide leaders in labor. We have a lot of support in the business community, and I bring an MBA to the office, and so we cover a lot of ground in the coalition of people that we bring to the table. And it is different. It's we in Connecticut like to say that we like progress, and we in Connecticut like to think that we're at the head of the curve. But it's having a campaign like this, which everybody should feel like they can have a part of and a piece of. It hasn't always been easy. We are a little bit different. There are. I'm not a political insider. And I held office for 3 terms on the New Haven Board of Aldermen. I sponsored and got passed and helped write Connecticut's first living wage legislation while I was there. I took on with the Attorney General Dick Blumenthal alcohol and tobacco advertising near our schools. And to give you an idea about how I think about voting, because voting is something that I've thought about, is part of my DNA. Standing is part of my DNA, and how we express that. As I said, the identity is something I think about a lot. I actually introduced a measure that was called Promise to New Haven, and one of the components would have tied future increases in the mayor's salary to increases in voter turnout.
I'm well aware of that, and I know that, albeit John DiStefano and I are close friends, I recall he wasn't very fond of that measure.
Well, I did a debate yesterday, the day before, with my opponent, and this matter came up. And the host actually said, well, so you're a product of the New Haven political machine. And I actually, what's fascinating is I'm really not.
No.
And I'm proud not to be. And what's happened in this campaign, because of who the different people are who are involved in, and I'm just blessed. I'm blessed to have all of these people, many of whom are involved in campaigns for the first time, decide that they want to participate and they want to see history be made, the first Latino in the history of Connecticut to reach a statewide ballot, maybe actually become a constitutional officer. It's exciting stuff. And so, in New Haven, for example, a lot of people are coming together to work together who hadn't typically worked together. And we're seeing that in a lot of urban centers, actually, in Bridgeport, somewhat in Hartford. We're now focusing on Waterbury and Stamford and Norwalk. And we are seeing this. What's great about my campaign is people ask me all the time, are you with Ned or are you with Dan? And I see them all the time. I have great relationships with both. But we're focused on making history as part of this campaign.
Right. It's something you have no control over. Whoever else is in a primary for another office. That's and I with all due respect to my good friend Chris Murphy and some other people got a little bit involved in promoting other candidates early on. The voters take care of these things. It's maybe not up to politicians to comment on other political offices and to focus on the office that they're ready, willing, and able to do the job for.
That's right.
And you would be comfortable working with either candidate as long as it keeps there, at that point where you're friendly with both and work well with both, and whoever wins you're going to work well with, and that's good.
Oh, cut? Okay.
Hi, welcome to Community Access Channel 23. Let's go on inside and see what's going on.
Dream big.
Hey, this is Big T here telling you to dream big.
Hey, at Channel 23, you can dream big and direct your own show.
Dream big.
We want you to all dream big.
We
Dream
big.
Cable Access, Channel 23, dream big.
Call us today at 203-792-1265 and find out how you can dream big at Channel 23.
First time.
So again, back to the notion of what a Secretary of State's duties are. What are your goals in following up Susan Bysowitz and continuing and expanding upon the good things that she's done?
Well, and she's been a remarkable Secretary of State, but I want to put Susan into a broader context because it's what I would like to do is, if we take a step back, you can go back to Watergate
Okay. Yep.
And Connecticut became a leader in campaign finance reform with Gloria Schaefer. So that she was Secretary of the State then, and then we saw CCAG, and its impact with
Connecticut
Miles
Citizens
Rappaport.
Action Group.
That's
Yes.
right. That's right. And we also and then after Miles came Susan, and some of your viewers, it's hard to believe that it was 2000, it was 10 years ago, but hanging chads in Florida sparked the new voting machines that we've, and that's been one of the things that I think Susan has grappled with. Is one of the hardest things that she's had to do is have plunked in her lap, oh yeah, you're going to get new voting machines, and what are they going to look like, and what's the process going to be like? And so the natural next step of the evolution of the office, I believe, and based on what our founding fathers here in Connecticut said that the office should be, which is the office responsible for voting and the office responsible for the business registry, is on the voting side to enact what more than 30 other states have already done, which is early voting. And what early voting is, and on the business registry side, to transform the office into what could be and what I want to be a partner with our business to help navigate the system of Hartford that doesn't serve our business as well. And we have too many people in this echo chamber that is Hartford talking about business and what business ought to be and what business could be, but nobody's actually had a job. And so when I bring a business background, an MBA, I consult to businesses, I help them to succeed, and I think that what I came to discover was that the Secretary of the State's office is the only office anywhere in the state of Connecticut to know the names and natures of all 322,000 businesses that we have here. And so why not make it a partner with our business?
May I ask you, when you say businesses and 325,000 businesses, what portion of those approximately constitute as small businesses? Because we've talked a lot about business and about small business on Progressive Soup in the year we've been on, and we know that small businesses, which I think are defined as under, 50 employees.
Well, it's defined as both in terms of employees and in terms of revenues.
Yeah.
So, but the vast majority of these businesses are small businesses.
And of course, small businesses generate somewhere above 70% of the jobs in America, and I'm sure that follows suit in Connecticut.
Again, we see people. We see a struggle here in Connecticut. And I'm a Gen Xer, and I've seen most of my friends leave the state over the course of this time.
And lost a lot of kids.
Lost a lot of kids to the New Yorks, and not just the New Yorks, but the Arizonas and the Nevadas and the Texas, and to China. I mean, I have friends who I went to Wilbur Cross with who are now off working in other countries.
It's true.
And it's again, we have. Let me give you an example. It's just really says it all for me. So, grew up in New Haven, went to Cross, went to Yale.
Yep.
And now I'm running for a statewide office. And so where do I go to find volunteers? Campaigns are fueled by volunteers. And so I go and I meet up with Yale College Democrats.
Yeah.
And they're all really excited. Great. And want you to
Great
win.
kids, yep.
Cool. So they said, but what do you want to do? I said, well, I envision, we have this huge opportunity with you guys here now. And I would love it, I would just love it, if there were a way that we could create the kinds of jobs that would get you to stay. And you'd think I was from Mars.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Now, if this same conversation happened with somebody at Columbia, New York, Harvard and Cambridge, Princeton, over in Princeton, nobody'd look at you like you were crazy. But we have this institutionalized culture, defeatist culture, I think.
So they just automatically kind of presume that,
it's just not possible.
We're going to graduate from a school in Connecticut and we're going to go somewhere else.
Right.
So what specific things in your agenda would help streamline the process and make things easier for businesses that did want to stay? Do you have ideas to really stimulate that?
Absolutely. I mean, what businesses, Rosa DeLauro has endorsed me, and I was having a meeting with one of her staff people not too long ago, and he was kind of scratching his head and a little bit frustrated because of his previous meeting, and I asked him, what's the matter? And he said, well, you know, Gerry, I just met up with this business in Brantford, and there are all of these tax credits that they just didn't know about. They're not using. They're going to start using them now, but they didn't know about them before. So, well, why didn't they know about them? Well, you know, we worked so hard to get these federal tax credits created, but we have no real way of telling the businesses about them. So, well, why is that? So, we're just not set up to do it. And that's how, it was really through that conversation that I came to realize that the only office, well, not the only office, but the only government office that knows the names and the function and the nature and the kinds of business is the Secretary of the State's office. And what if the Secretary of the State's office, in addition to collecting these fees to allow businesses to legally do business within the state, what if, in addition to that, they actually got something for it, like timely, actionable, useful information that enabled them to succeed? What if they were able to get better information just online? I'll give you a case in point. I was talking with another Secretary of the State office, and I had a bit of an embarrassing moment, and it's because, you know, this
That'll
is
get the audience's attention, won't it?
Yeah, it was really embarrassing. It's because because our General Assembly hasn't dedicated the necessary resources to that office to allow it to do what it needs to do. It's cut and cut and cut. You know, Susan talks all the time about having done more with less. Well, part of the reason she's had to do more with less is because she's gotten less and less and less.
And she's had to do the best she could with what she's had.
With the best she could with what she's got. And so, you know, one of the things that has happened is, you know, all these other states are investing in technology and investing in transparency, things that allow people to empower themselves. And so I'm talking to another Secretary of the State's office, and they punch up the Connecticut site, and the guy literally lets out a laugh.
Wow.
And
so we're so far behind in our technology,
we're very far behind. And we're very far behind because, you know, up in Hartford, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. And it's been a challenge. I mean, I don't envy Susan the fight that she's had to fight all these years. But I'll tell you something. I think that what Hartford does need is somebody who is coming from the outside, from a business perspective, who has a sensitivity and eye for what businesses need and a passion to do the job.
There was an article that came out not too recently that spoke about, not too long ago, thank you. That came out not too long ago.
I'm presuming that's what you meant.
That was kind of critical of Denise Merrill's, I would say, culpability in the fiscal crisis that we're in. Do you think that your party, I mean your specific campaign, is more equipped to pull us out of this fiscal crisis that we're in than the old administration?
Well, I mean, I'm running for the office of Secretary of the State, and legislators are the ones who are responsible for deciding on the budget. And, you know, my opponent is one of 4 Democrats who shapes the budget. And it's very tempting, and a lot of Hartford people like to point the finger anywhere but at themselves. And it's like, it's George Bush's fault, for example, my opponent likes to say. I'm not entirely. I don't think it's only George Bush's fault. I mean, and I don't think it's only Jody Rell's fault. I think that we have seen poor Republican leadership, no question about it. But I also think we've seen poor Democratic leadership here in the state of Connecticut. And it's easy to be a leader in the good times, but it's in the tough times that you see the mettle of your leadership. And so what has this General Assembly done? What has my opponent done? My opponent before she was majority leader was the chair of the Appropriations Committee. And so in case your viewers don't know, that's the committee that decides where every penny of the budget goes. Okay. Now nobody asked, you don't necessarily have to have a promotion, but then she wanted a promotion. And so she became the majority leader. And this was all part of Jim Amon, when Jim Amon decided to run for governor. And so now there was the opportunity to be speaker. So she decided she wanted to be the majority leader, and she won. She won the internal Democratic battle. And so now she's a very, very powerful figure who was already extremely powerful. And she's walking away from the responsibility. You may have noticed that we have a $3.5 billion budget deficit that our General Assembly has not fixed. What they actually did was they borrowed and they pushed the problem to the next General Assembly.
Kick the can down the road is how the term goes, I believe.
Precisely. She kicked the can down the road. And then when she met with the Norwich Bulletin, she really, I mean, it was, I was blown away when I read the piece. She basically said, it's not my problem, it's the problem of the next General Assembly. And that's not leadership. You know, she's running on her record, and her record is her record. You know, the state's economy is falling off a cliff. The budget needs. It's very easy to in good times to say, "Oh, great." Yes,
I hear people in the audience screaming out. Just name a couple of minor points where you would have done things a little bit differently than she's done them.
Well,
fair.
You know, I'm not the majority leader. You know, I didn't ask to be the head of the Democratic Party in the General Assembly, and so I'm asking voters to want me to be the Secretary of the State. I can tell you what I want to do with Secretary of the State.
There you go. That's what I want to hear.
And so I want to enact early voting. What is early voting? Early voting is
his brother.
Early voting is a measure. Is a means of doing exactly what it suggests, of voting early. It would be being able to vote by mail, at least 2 weeks before an election, and so that people who are, how many people do you have who live in Reading or Bethel and work in Danbury, or in New Haven and work in New York, or how many people are sick, or seniors, or single moms and busy? Our lives are not defined anymore by the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November.
Correct.
But our voting system hasn't kept up with this. And we like to talk about Connecticut being on the leading edge of smart people and smart things, but really we're not.
That's the obvious follow-up question is, where are we? What are other states doing that Connecticut should be doing?
I mean, you look at California that combines the traditions of polls and mail-in ballots. You look at Oregon that does 100% of their voting by mail. You look at Texas that has had early voting for a long time, at least since 2004, right? And you look at Connecticut where we do the same old thing. We complain that other people should don't have it as good as we do. Yet I think that we start to see certain trends. My campaign manager, for example, is an expert and one of the state's leaders in achievement gap. And you look at achievement gap in Connecticut, it's a very special thing. Achievement gap in Connecticut is the #1 place in the U.S.
Okay, we're winding down, so finish your thought. We're going to come back and do a second show. We'll actually start the second show with that thought. We'll pick up where we left off.